Welcome, everybody, to Inside Boxing Weekly on the Grueling Truth Sports Network. I am your host, Mike Goodpaster. I want to welcome in my co-host, writer of 3 books you can find on Amazon. And what was it? A Few More Rounds, Intimate Warfare, and Blood on My Notebook. John Raspanti, how you doing?
Doing great, Mike. Thank you for remembering. Anxious to talk about this fight. I mean, it's an interesting fight. I'll say that much about it.
Yeah, I don't think it's a super fight, but for nowadays, it's a super fight. I mean, at least all boxing fans seem to be ready for this fight. And I think the other intriguing thing here is Gervonta Davis seems like he's been around for a decade because he has, and we still don't legitimately, we haven't seen him fight somebody that was a top line fighter. But we don't know if Ryan Garcia is a top line fighter because his best win was Luke Campbell, which was a good win, but he had to get up off the canvas from it. So I think the fight that makes this most intriguing is we don't really know what's going to happen. And the odds on this surprised me because it's like minus 290 for Davis. It's plus 215 if you're going to bet on Garcia. And if you're going to do that, check out BetMGM, which is in the link in the description below if you're watching on YouTube. But did the odds surprise you, John?
Yeah, very much so. I think it's much closer than that. We've had a couple of upsets, as we know, in the last few weeks, and the Towering Inferno getting knocked out, and then Joyce getting stopped, and he was Joyce's opponent was a 10-1, 11-1 favorite, and Zhang. So.
Well, Joyce was
almost 3-1.
Yeah,
right?
I think it was like plus, or it was like minus 11 or minus 1,200 for Joyce.
Exactly, and so Davis almost 3-1. You know, it's because of what you said. Garcia really hasn't fought anybody. I mean, Campbell, yes, but Davis has fought more. His resume is a little more impressive, but then again, it's not that impressive either. So it's like they've both been somewhat protected. So that's probably the most interesting thing about the fight is we don't know. It's the unknown factor, which makes it really intriguing.
Yeah, and I think maybe I'm reading too much into here, but Ryan Garcia accepted a whole lot of nonsense to get this fight signed, which means Gervonta Davis and his management team asked for a whole lot of things to try to sway this in his favor. So any outcome, I think, seems possible here, but I'm starting to put a fair amount of stock in the confidence of a younger guy who's willing to take a bad deal and a skinny paycheck just to get his hands in range of someone else. And that someone else, Gervonta Davis, if he wins this fight, there are so many guys there for Shakur Stevenson, Teofimo Lopez. You've got Devin Haney, who I think is the best of all of them. But there's a lot of big money fights there. So this is a guy, Ryan Garcia, who, we talked about guys who took short money back in the day. This is that guy right now. This is not something like we saw Usyk try to do it with Fury, but Fury didn't want the fight so bad that he just put a bunch of stuff in hoping it would never happen. But the fact that Garcia is willing to do this actually makes me think that if I'm betting this fight, I might as well go with the value and take the plus 215 and bet Garcia. Am I crazy?
No. When you were talking about the odds, the first thing that popped in my head, and I'm no gambler, but I thought, man, I'd put money on Garcia. I would, because he's got the power, and his chances of winning are pretty equal to Davis as far as I'm concerned. Davis might be a slight favorite in my book, but it's close. And you're right. I mean, guys don't do that nowadays. Guys don't. And that tells you about Oscar De La Hoya. Does that mean that he really, really believes in Ryan Garcia? I would say so.
And I think PBC is getting pushed down so much. They're losing. I think they're hemorrhaging money. I think they're taking this fight just hoping Davis can get the win and they can take off from there. But if he doesn't, I think PBC's in a fair amount of trouble too.
Yeah, that's the way it is nowadays. But Davis impressed me, and I wrote this in an article on The Grueling Truth when he fought Isaac Cruz, the pit bull, because he had to change his style a little bit, and he did it. So that showed a brain in the ring that is always nice to have when you can go to Plan B when Plan A is you're struggling. Can Garcia go to Plan B if Davis really pops him, knocks him down, hurts him? Does he have another plan, or is he going to stand up straight like he tends to do, and he can get clipped again by those bigger punches? And then can Davis get under his punches to clip him? I mean, you're talking about a guy 5'5" versus a guy 5'10", so that's substantial. But as we saw with the Towering Inferno, the big tree can go down if he gets hit right. So yeah, there's a lot of things going on. I think the Davis team believes in him. I saw Oscar made some comments that, oh, well, we wanted this, we wanted that, and fighters do that. I mean, Oscar did it too. I don't know. You're trying to get the best advantages. Hell, Andre Ward did it. Doesn't mean you don't believe you're going to win, but I do like that Garcia is willing to pretty much say, fine, whatever. I believe in myself. Apparently he does. And I'm going to risk myself, because if you can't exploit yourself in a sense, in a belief sense, where you're like, I can beat this guy. I can beat this guy. I'm willing to take the crap. Then what's the point? You know, that's boxing is really a lot about confidence. And Garcia's obviously got it. So we'll see if it's enough to carry on tomorrow night.
You know, really, life's a lot about the confidence, no matter any sport or no matter what you're doing. And the thing I think is the key here, number one, you got Goosen, who's overly fond of denim, but I think he's a very good trainer. And I think the key to winning this fight, I mean, I'll give you my 3 keys for each one of them to win. Then you give me what you think of those, or if you disagree. But Garcia's got to start fast, because we know that Gervonta Davis is a fighter who flourishes in the later rounds. From the 5th, 6th round on, it seems like he heats up, he fights better. So I think you land early, you get Davis respect, you give this 28-year-old undefeated fighter thoughts about committing to his shots, if you know what I mean. And even though I think that is the best play, is to start fast, I think it needs to be controlled aggression from Garcia, not just go out there and start swinging. So what's your take on that one? Because to me, when I watch Davis, he has a tendency to not throw a bunch of punches, especially early in a fight.
Yeah, he's a very slow starter, and Lomachenko was that way. Floyd Mayweather was that way. Lomachenko is that way, and as he's gotten older, it's gotten worse in that sense. But I think Davis likes to kind of size his opponent up, and he doesn't start going until maybe round 3, round 4, and he could easily be behind entering round 4. He could lose all 3 rounds if Garcia comes out pretty fast and smart, like you said. No, that's what I'm thinking too. I think if I'm Garcia, I mean, he's talking about this fight could end early, and you never know if they mean that, but that's what he wants. I'm sure he would love to land his big shot, and Davis is very aware of that left hook. He keeps talking about it because it's out there, and he's going to be looking for it. So there will be openings, especially in the early going. And I think it's pretty important that Garcia, yeah, I agree with you, does something early so that Davis, you know, Rolando Romero said he was going to do something to Davis, and Davis really was very respectful in the first couple of rounds. He said he was going to knock him out in the first round, and Tank just kind of looked at him at the end of the first round. Ha, you didn't get me. But he didn't throw very many punches either for a while on. So he's pretty smart in there, pretty cagey, but then he can lose rounds. So if Garcia can get off to a lead, and as you said, maybe the Tank kind of hesitate to throw that big uppercut that knocked Leo Santa Cruz out for 5 minutes, you know, it can be very interesting. I expect Garcia to really be winning the fight early. I do. I think he's going to come out, and because if you watch any of his fights, Mike, he starts fast.
Yeah, and the thing about him, he's a lot taller, he's a lot longer. And I think these attributes could be used to great effect against a guy like Davis. I think Davis will have to get in close if he's to have any success. But if Garcia can keep Tank at a distance, utilizing that jab, I could see him running this out to like winning the first 4 or 5 rounds, and then maybe Tank gets a little bit desperate. And then, I mean, Garcia could really take control of this fight. But my question is this. How worrisome is it to you that Luke Campbell put Ryan Garcia on his butt? I know he got right back up, but Luke Campbell doesn't hit as hard as Gervonta.
Oh, it's a concern. If Gervonta hits him like that, I don't think he gets up. I don't. Even though Tank is a little guy at 5'5", but he's packed in a lot of power in that little frame. So if he catches him solid like that, if he gets up, because you said it, against Campbell, he got up, he was okay. I don't think he's okay when he gets up. I mean, he probably would get up because he's got heart, I believe. He would. If he can, he'll get up, but Davis won't let him off the hook. He'll put him away. So it's just his head, you know. And Joe Goosen, you're right. He likes that style of clothing quite a bit. He's like a model trainer sometimes. Every time I see him, geez, it cracks me up. But the thing about Garcia has always bothered me, and a lot of people say this, so this isn't anything. It's new. And all you got to do is watch him. He's got his head there. his head is there as a target. And
Yeah.
Davis could do that old trick, that Canelo does so well and others. He looks down here and he's going to be down there anyway and then comes up. And,
yeah, and that's what worries me about picking this fight,
yeah,
because I like Garcia, but the fact is,
yeah,
when he pulls back, he usually keeps his head straight up.
yeah, yeah. And you would think a 15-time amateur title winner, 23 pro fights, that somebody must have said something. And I believe someone did. It's a bad habit. We all have them, or most of us.
Yeah. We all wanted Tommy Hearns to keep his left hand up.
Say that again?
So we always wanted Tommy Hearns to keep both his hands up. It never happened.
True.
He would always leave the left down all the time.
Yeah, he always would shoot the left from his hip, right, as we used to say. Yeah, I think it's just the way he fights, and it's almost if he fights somebody that can get him, it's like a live and die kind of scenario. And I don't know about his chin, Mike. I just don't know about it.
We don't know that much about Gervonta's. It's not like either one of them's fought huge power punchers. But I think it is almost imperative when you look at what Davis has to do, what Tank has to do to win this fight. I think, he doesn't throw a lot of punches early. But, I mean, he has got to land something to get Garcia's respect early. So I don't think he could sit back like he always does. Or I think Garcia could come in and take over this fight right away. I think if Davis can inflict a little bit of damage in the opening stages of the fight, this may present an opportunity for him to land one of those trademark knockout blows early. Because I also think this, I would compare Jerry Cooney against Larry Holmes. Cooney never been on a stage like that before. And he got caught early. He went to the canvas. It kind of set the tone for the rest of the fight. So I think with Garcia, will he be overwhelmed by the moment? And if Davis is a little more active, Davis might be able to end this fight early.
Yeah, I would expect. I don't know. Can't even tell you the last time I saw Davis throw a body punch. But I would have expected him to do it because it's going to be right there. It's going to be easier to hit the body than the head in the beginning. And then if he puts that little, and if he can hit him with a really good shot to the body, then maybe he can get his hands to come down a little and he can throw the big wicked hook that he likes to throw so much. So it's going to be a little bit of a chess game in the beginning, I think, where we're trying to figure. You're trying to figure out what I'm doing. I'm trying to figure out what you're doing. And who's planning more. And Davis does have more experience in the big fights. That's true. I mean, not like this, but he's been through a lot. And he has at least one, I believe, I could be wrong here, but I researched it the best I could, a legitimate title at least once. Ryan, who they call King Ryan, this is just a personal peeve of mine. I can't stand because you're not called king when you haven't won any titles. That's just me.
You are when you got 1 billion followers on.
I know. So they don't care. But it's just me, old school. It's like titles were, and I put that in the grueling truth. Titles were big in our day, in my day, and they're not anymore.
They're big. It's just everybody has one.
Everybody and his brother has one, right? The trainer has one. I mean, it just, that's the thing. It cheapens it. And this isn't for a title. If anything, Mike, the one that it reminded me of just a little, I don't want to insult anybody that remembers because it's different, but it's a little similar. And this was more of a grudge fight, a local grudge fight, was when Little Red fought Schoolboy Bobby Chacon in 1974.
Hopefully the fight will be that good.
Yeah, that would be nice. They were both undefeated. And that's about where the similarity ends. But
Lopez was a much older fighter than Chacon at that point, I believe, too, wasn't he? He'd been around for a while.
Yeah, and so it's interesting just because this is what boxing needs, and if the promoters can't recognize that, I don't know. They got to know it. They're not morons, most of them.
Yeah, because with Stevenson, Teofimo, Lomachenko, I mean, there's multiple fights you could make every year. You could have 2 big fights in that division, or even 3 if you wanted to. We know they won't want to. But the other thing for Gervonta, I think that he needs to turn this into a dirty fight, if you know what I mean. I mean, I think Garcia is the superior boxer in a number of physical aspects, such as height and reach. And I think Davis needs to negate these attributes. And he can do this by bringing the fight in close. I think he needs to try to rough Garcia up. I think he needs to turn this into a street fight.
Yeah, and he's got a lot of experience with that. And that's one of the things about their opposites. I mean, he might even hit him low on purpose, just to try to unnerve him.
That's a street fight, so that would count.
Yeah, exactly. Get him out of his game. Make him start thinking like, what the hell's going on here? I mean, that's not bad strategy. This is boxing. This is, hell, we did it in basketball. We would do things in basketball during games to get a guy out of his game a little bit. I mean, hell no, I'm not telling anybody something, right? Not you, Mike. You were a little angel.
I did a lot. It's all right. Go ahead. There's probably people watching say that's some bitch, dude. But go ahead.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's the point. I mean, that's sports, and it's the way it goes. You almost got to expect it in something like this. If Davis feels he has an advantage in that area, and he does, I think, and that's an interesting point too, Mike, is these guys have come from such different places. Yeah. If someone's down on the canvas from where they've come from and what Davis is facing in the future, obviously, who really has the massive Rocky Balboa moxie to get up when they're really hurt? Who has more heart? And we don't really know. But
I do know this, though. The one time Garcia got dropped, though, he did get right up and fired. Yeah, so we do have that as some ammunition for Garcia in that. Go ahead.
He has some heart, but I kind of think Davis is grittier in that way. But I don't know. That's what makes it intriguing again. Right back to the beginning point is it's got a lot of intangibles that we don't know. We don't have answers for. We're just speculating.
Yeah, and my third point for Gervonta Davis is this. I think that Garcia has proved he can do serious damage to the body. If you don't believe me, watch his fight with Luke Campbell when he finished off the former Olympian with a left hook to the body. I think that Gervonta Davis, it's imperative that he keeps his body protected if he is to give himself the best chance of winning this fight. And I don't know that he's fought anybody good enough to really go to the body a lot on him. But with the advantages Garcia has physically and the way Garcia does like to go to the body, if Garcia doesn't fall in love with just trying to knock him out in the first or second round, and he methodically goes to the body and then tries to impose his will the first few rounds like that, I think then Garcia wins this fight. But how often do we see guys go to the body anymore?
Yeah, and you're right. He can go to the body. And the key, too, is that if he doesn't get crazy. And that's when you get careless, when you get crazy. If he sticks with what he's doing, if it's working and he's hitting Davis to the body and it's bothering him, if he doesn't start thinking, I'm going to knock this guy out right now, that's when he could get clipped. So somehow he's going to have to stick. If I'm Joe Goosen, I'm like, stick to the game plan, stick to the game plan, stick to the game plan. And he's 24 years old, big fight. He's going to be all excited. The adrenaline's going to be going. His legs might feel a little funny in the early going. So he's going to want to end it if he gets a chance, but somehow he's going to have to keep it up here where he's like, okay, it's all right. I got this. And that'll be a challenge for him.
Yeah. We talked about it being a super fight. And when you look at this, though, how many lightweight super fights have you ever seen? Was Roberto Duran ever in a lightweight super fight?
Not a lightweight super fight. We know what super fight he was in with a certain Olympian, but that was in the welterweight division. So, lightweight, he had a lot of good fights, but not fights that you would call a super fight. His rematch with De Jesus was a really, really good fight, but not a super fight.
Yeah. So what has been a super fight in the lightweight division?
A
super fight where everybody in the whole world cared. Has there been a super fight where outside of boxing fans, people cared below the welterweight division?
I don't believe so. And I could be forgetting.
Because if I think of the last 25 years, probably the biggest fight at this weight was probably Corrales and Castillo, which ended up being one of the greatest fights I've ever seen, if not the greatest fight. But after that, you're looking at stuff like, I don't know. Robert Easter against Comey?
No.
Casamayor against Corrales in the rematch, probably the third fight. Marquez, Diaz. Really, though, what we talk about, is it really a super fight? Have we ever seen a lightweight super fight? Maybe back in the day when, Benny Leonard and them were fighting, there was.
Benny Leonard, yeah.
Since I've been alive.
Yeah, even Mondo Ramos, when he won the title, Ismael Laguna. That wasn't a super fight. It was a really good fight, but it wasn't a super fight. Now Lomachenko was fighting Haney, right? And that's a really good fight. But again, it's not a super fight, right? So
what's your definition of a super fight? Mine is basically people outside of boxing fans know what's going on. I remember like Holmes Cooney, Leonard Hearns, Hagler Leonard.
Ali Frazier.
The local newscast would talk about it at the top of the hour. And ABC News, CBS, NBC, they would all do previews leading up to the fight. When's the last time we've even seen a fight like that? Probably Mayweather Pacquiao.
That's it.
And once again, that was a fight that was welterweight and above.
Yep. Yeah. No, they weren't so uncommon back in the day. Now they're, if you're doing what you're doing with titles and you're saying pretty much a good fight is considered a super fight, then again, you're cheapening the sport. I mean, this is not a super fight. This is not the fight to save boxing, but at least it's got people talking, which is good. And there's a lot of people like us that are intrigued and interested. So that's good.
I'm intrigued and I'm interested. It's not a super fight. I think it's better than a good fight. I mean, I do with two young guys. I think, though, if Gervonta Davis was to easily run over Ryan Garcia, I think we'd still have a lot of questions about Gervonta Davis because none of us know for sure how good Ryan Garcia is.
Yeah,
but if Ryan Garcia beats Gervonta Davis, we know. Because I believe, just like I think you do, that Gervonta Davis is really good.
Yes.
We just haven't seen him fight against that level of competition. And let's face it, sitting here Friday night, 24 hours from the fight, we don't really know how good either one of them are.
Yeah, and then there's the old adage, Mike, that is you raise your game when you're in these kind of fights, or even in any kind of sport, you raise it to the level of your opponent. So
and we've never seen either one of these have to do that.
Right. So who will do it, or who will cave? Who will not be able to do it? And if it's equal, if they both, then we're going to have a super fight. Then we're going to have a great fight. If one of them doesn't, one of them is pretty good and one of them is very good, then we'll have more of them. I don't see it, though. I don't see one-sided. I don't. I see a very competitive, interesting fight. I don't know about a great fight, but I see a very compelling fight all the way through. And you said you think, is that who your pick? Is your pick Garcia?
I am picking Garcia to win the fight. I think that he roasts him up. He gets a big early lead. I think Davis comes back. I think this turns into a really good fight after about round 6. And then I think the fight closes up. I think it'll be a close decision. Who wins a close decision in this fight? Who the hell knows? Because both sides need to win this fight really bad. But I would say I think Garcia is a little more talented, boxing-wise. He's taller, a little bit longer. But the other thing is, Tank is 28, and we're talking about this dude's been towards the top of the division for almost a decade. And we're still waiting for him to fight somebody that's really good. So to me, I haven't seen a lot of progression with him getting better over the last 3 or 4 years. I mean, I know Isaac the Pitbull Cruz was a good fighter. He beat a couple good fighters, but maybe it's a little stale. It also worries me because it seems like either him or his management team or both are not real big on jumping in with somebody that's a challenge. I would tend to believe that that's probably the management team more than it is him. But at some point, you have to demand a fight. Sugar Ray Leonard, Tommy Hearns, super fight, 1981. There was no reason for those dudes could have kept making money. They could have fought Benitez and stuff. But from what I saw, I remember Hearns put something in like Boxing Illustrated, calling Sugar Ray Leonard a chicken or something. And it was Chicken Leonard. It's Chicken Leonard instead of Chicken Little. And like 2 months later, the fight is made because those guys wanted to be great. So I'm going to pick Ryan Garcia on this. I don't know how good he is. But I think by him taking this fight, and he's taking short money to do it, I think he's showing us that maybe he does want to be great. Because let's face it, he could have made millions of dollars fighting anybody right now because he's that popular. So I'm going to side with Garcia just because of that. I like the fact that he's taking short money. I like the fact that he's willing to risk something. So, and Gervonta Davis at some point had to fight somebody.
Yeah, I mean, very, very excellent points. I mean, I for a few months I've been leaning towards Davis, and I still am a little bit, but I've been wavering the last few days too.
I was just until I started writing my Pick'em article for The Grueling Truth, which is up on The Grueling Truth right now. But when I started writing that, and you really start to think, this dude's taking a lot less money. He's not complaining about anything. He just wants to fight this dude. To me, that says a lot. Now, the thing that worries me is he doesn't have a chin and he gets smoked in 2 or 3 rounds, and I look like an idiot. But that's all right. I looked like an idiot before. It's just been like 10 years. I mean, my boxing picks are usually pretty dead on. So
I know, and
but I'm worried about this Garcia fight because I really am worried that he can't take a punch. But we're going to find out.
Yeah, I mean, we were idiots last weekend with Joe Joyce and Zane.
Oh yeah, I forgot. No, we're not even going to remember that.
I got to talk about that. Okay, I already forgot it. So yeah. This is what I was
You
thinking.
just brought it up. I forgot it.
I
Because
know.
It was very forgettable.
I don't want anybody to think that we think we're always right, even though we almost always are. But that was an example of where
I could pick the round most of the time. If I had to pick the round here, I would say Garcia stops him in 11.
And that was what I was thinking, that Davis would stop him because he would was coming on, would be late stoppage. So, I mean, I guess if you're going to force me with a gun to my head, I'll give the edge to Davis, but I won't be really surprised who wins. It'll be one of these. I'll be writing about it for Max Boxing. I'll probably be going, there won't be any shockers. At least unless it ends in like 2 rounds, that would be a surprise.
Yeah, it would not shock me if it ended in 2 rounds either way. I have so many questions about both of these guys still. Nothing would surprise me. A first round knockout wouldn't surprise me. A 12-round boring draw would not surprise me. But that's what makes this intriguing.
Yes, exactly. And it would
surprise me. 12-round draw, I'm not watching the second fight. But go ahead.
Yeah, exactly. That would have surprised me if Davis was the knockout Garcia in the first round, because he usually doesn't do anything in the first round. Maybe throws 2 or 3 punches. So he'd have to throw his 1 or 2 punches and land. But
I think this. I'm also worried that the moment could catch Garcia. You know what I mean? And he comes out even more aggressive than what he should, and then he walks into one.
Well, yeah, and with the way he fights, he can. And Gervonta Tank Davis is a good counterpuncher, and Romero found that out when he ducked in and he had his head right there and he clocked him right there, and down he went on his face. So, he's smart that way. So Garcia's going to have to be aware at all times that this guy counters well and he's got power. So, but he might take it. Like, he might take a left hand and just go nope, and between yep, but still he's still standing. Then we really got an interesting fight going.
All right, John. Anything else we want to discuss before we're done? You're picking Davis in 11. I'm picking Garcia in 11. We'll see who's right. And we'll come back and do a show maybe Monday. We'll do it Monday morning. We'll post it Monday night.
We could do it early one. Yeah, sure.
Okay. Works for me. All right. Anything else before we wrap it up?
No, I'm hopeful that people watch it. A lot of people watch it because it never can hurt boxing. And, I'm a diehard boxing fan, as you know. I get down on the sport because it kicks itself, shoots itself in the foot. And I get so angry at the
Yeah, but remember this, almost every sport does that right now.
Boxing there's so much greed and arrogance that it drives me crazy. But, you got to give it, let's just say this, end it like this, got to give it to these guys. I mean, this is a risky fight for both of them. Davis could have kept doing what he was doing with Floyd Mayweather, had given him these fights that weren't that hard. And I mean, it's hard, but not to the level that you would expect. And Garcia could have just kept fighting guys that we expected to win and wait for Devin Haney, who he fought, so many times as an amateur, and they split their fight. So you got to give it to them. This is a really important fight for both of them, and they know it, and they seem to be grasping that very realistically. So kudos to them for taking it, and I just hope it's a really, really good fight.
All right, John. So the fight will be tomorrow night. Make sure you check out later tonight. We have other shows on The Grueling Truth tonight, which is Friday night. After the boxing show, we will have the top 15 greatest hits in NFL history. There is a Chicago Bear in there with a hit.
Butt kiss.
Wilbur Marshall smacking Eric Hipple. You remember that one?
Man, the guy that knocked Frank Gifford into Tomorrowland, Chuck
Bednarik.
Oh, what a hit that was! But I don't even know how Gifford got up.
See, you can watch that. This show is on at 8. That show will be on at 9. Make sure you check that out. But we're going to go ahead. We're going to wrap it up. Make sure you go to Amazon and you can just type in the search bar. I believe John Raspanti and his 3 books will come up. Highly recommend all 3. A Few More Rounds is great. Blood on My Notebook. Intimate Warfare is the story of the trilogy of Arturo Gatti and Mickey Ward. Can't go wrong anything where you have those 2 guys in it. But we're going to go ahead. We're going to wrap it up. You can follow me at Grueling Truth. Make sure you click on the link in the description below in this video if you're watching on YouTube or even Facebook. I think the description's above. For BetMGM to bet on this fight. So you might as well go all in. Pick the underdog tomorrow night. But for now, we're going to go ahead. We're going to check out of here. For John Raspanti, I'm Mike Goodpaster. You've been watching and listening to The Grueling Truth.